Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next movie review and back to reviewing the Transformer movies. And now we'll get into reviewing the 2009 sequel, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Like I said, released in 2009, 2 years after the first one. Michael Bay returns to direct. Even I've mentioned Steven Spielberg, who's been the executive producer on all these Transformer films, he comes back too. Now the film came out. Now the film made money, of course. It made more than the first film. The first film made about 700 million worldwide. This one made around a little over 800 million worldwide. And it was still successful, but despite all that, it was like panned by critics. I mean, despite its success, it was panned by critics as a 19% Rotten Tomatoes compared to the first film had like a 57% Rotten Tomatoes. So it was mixed on that though, but critics hated this sequel. It has it's like I said, 19% Rotten Tomatoes, and it was nominated for 7 Razzies. I mean, for worst actress, Megan Fox, along with Jennifer Spy, which came out the same year, which reasonably so because, like I said before, I hate Megan Fox. She's a shitty actress. I don't give a shit about her. Yeah, but for this film and for Jennifer's Body, worst supporting actress, Ju- all Julie White. I think that's the one who played Shia's mom. I think. Which yeah. Worst screen couple: Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox. Worst prequel, remake, ripoff, or sequel. But it won three. But it won the other. Those were nominated, but it won of 3 of the 7. It won for worst picture, worst screenplay, and it won for worst director for Michael Bay. Yeah. So yeah, critics hated this film definitely. Although, granted, I think this the one that made the most out of all the films in the franchise. This one made the most money in the U.S. because this one made just about 400 million in the U.S. The rest of the films like made about 200 some million in the U.S. I think the third film made about 300 something in the U.S. So this one of all the ones in the franchise, this is still the one that made the most money in the U.S. though, and it made over 100 million in its opening weekend, like 108. So that's still the biggest opening in the franchise, still though. As people was looking forward to seeing the next one though. But all that said though, the cast comes back. I mean, Shia LaBeouf comes back as Sam Witwicky. Like I said, Megan Fox, Josh Duhamel, Tyrese Gibson, John Turturro, um, the one who plays Shia's parents, Kevin Dunn and Julie White. So, and like I said, like I said before, whether you how you feel about Shia LaBeouf nowadays, whether you hate the guy or not, I still like Shia LaBeouf as an actor. Like I said, I liked him back when his early films, like in Holes. I forgot to mention I did like him the bit parts when he was an iRobot or Constantine with Keanu Reeves. I love Disturbia. I enjoy Eagle Eye. Um, Even Indiana Jones 4, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I forgot he was in that war film from 2014, the film called Fury. That was with Brad Pitt, and he had a mustache. But whether you hate the guy or not, whether I know he's people don't respect him nowadays because of the shit the crap he's pulled, But still, whether you hate the guy or not, though, to me, I still like Shia LaBeouf though, despite the shit he has done. Now, like I said, I know you separate the actor from the person in real life. I do that a lot though, because there's a lot of actors who are complete shit, compared to how they are acting in the movies, like Robert De Niro and among others. But anyway, but I think he still did okay in this film. I did because it's by the third film, which I'll get into though. But it's like he didn't want to even want to be in the movie because I think he was like pretty much done with the movies, which I don't blame him. So like when you see him, it's like when you see him in the third film, it's like his face react, his face expressions, like he doesn't really feel like he doesn't even want to be there. But here though, I think he was still alright, and for the most part, I thought the cast were fine. I mean, except for Megan Fox. I mean, problems with the film. This has started the downhill spot. This started the downhill thing with this franchise, especially in the humor. This is why I started just like, oh god, the humor was getting more cringy, as it was, like the first film, Bumblebee pissing on John Turturro, right? That type of humor. Here, the humor is even worse. I mean, first of all, we have the Julie White who plays Shia's mom, right? They're on the college campus, right? And she's getting high from eating pot brownies. Showing everyone, oh look at him, his showing everyone Shia LaBeouf like his little baby shoes and stuff like that. Oh look at that, and she's getting high on pot brownies. Or later when they meet this old Decepticon at the Smithsonian, when he finally wakes up, when they bring him back, right? He farts out a parachute, and you literally hear the sound, farts out a parachute. Or John Turturro, who I like, I think did fine this film again though, but we get this secret. Okay, he has to do it, create distraction, so he strips out down into his underwear, Or stuff with the Decepticons, like later when they're in Egypt and like the Decepticons are like the construction vehicles. They form into one, and they gave the Skeptic that was a Devastator, whose name was, a pair of balls. Like two wrecking balls and make up like it's the Decepticons' balls, literally. And even John Turturro even says on the radio, says, "Hey, I could tell because it has like pair of balls or something like that." See, it's the humor like that. It just got more cringing as this franchise went. Especially in this movie. I think this is the one where the humor was like the cringiest the most. And then Josh Duhamel and Tyrese Gibson, they come back as the soldiers, but they've been given literally hardly anything at all to do. They do a little bit in the opening where they find this big Decepticon, like, and that's the problem with this franchise. There's so many characters of Autobots and especially Decepticons. It's like you can't keep track of the names of all these, especially they all look the same. It's like that's one thing. This franchise is like, who's that and who's that and who's that? Who's that Decepticon? Who's this Decepticon that got killed? Or which Autobot? That's the thing. You get so many of these characters on both sides. Like hard to keep track of who's who and whose name it is. I mean, the only people you recognize the most is Bumblebee and Optimus Prime, and Megatron. So it's like who is who. But and plus, I didn't, like I said before, I didn't grow up with Transformers. I did not. So all these names will literally just go like over my head. So this one in the beginning, they fight. They're seeking out other Decepticons. They destroy this. They kill this giant one that has like this one big giant wheel. I don't know who he is. So because if he's a character from back then, I'm sorry. Like I said, all there's like I said, I didn't grow up with Transformers. So all these names will literally just go over my head. And so, and then, but this time, while it's going on, Sam, he's ready to go. He's ready to go to college. He doesn't want to take Bumblebee with him, and and once again, he's on the phone with Megan Fox. Of course, she's there just to be a bombshell. To look hot. Showing, oh, look at her, how the way she's slowly on the motorcycle talking to Shia. That's what I mean. She's only there for her looks. That's what it is. She can't act her way out of a paper bag. Every time I see her on screen, I'm like, "You're shit. You can't act." I mean, I just don't know how she keeps on getting jobs. Like she was in Expendables 4. That was a shitty film that she was a soldier, which we're doing with a killer lion. I'm sorry, I don't buy her as a soldier at all. I pretty much everything I've seen her in sucks. But anyway, and then thankfully, like picks up Shia picks up a shirt and a piece of the Allspark, like from the ending of the first film when he used it to kill Megatron with. There was like a little fragment of the Allspark left. thankfully, like, he was going through his shirts. I guess thankfully, wow, he didn't use this bother to use the shirt in the last 2 years, you know. And when he finally picks up the shirt, oh, the piece of the R spark falls out. I'm like, this, it's been that shirt, and you haven't used it since. Oh, you pick it up now. Oh, there it is. And so he picks it up. He sees all these weird symbols. It's embedded in his mind now. And when it drops to the floor, melts to the floor, all these kitchen appliances come to life as robots. Bumblebee kills them all, saves them, but then and in this part, like Sam was like also like acting a bit of a dick in this because he was like, like he saves Shia, but then he goes and yells at Bumblebee like, "What? You're acting like a bit of an ass, Sam." I mean, really? And tells him like you can't go to you're not taking him to college, you know? Why? Because you want to be seen with an Autobot? Okay, so why? Because you're dating a hot girl? I don't know why. But anyway, they finally go to the college. Which Kevin Dunn comes back as the dad. Like I said, I like Kevin Dunn as I aforementioned. I liked him in the Godzilla 1980 film, which I will always defend. I know everybody hates that movie. Like I said, but I'll defend it. And Small Soldiers, and among other films, like Unstoppable, which I reviewed not that long ago. So, and then that's where the mom is like showing everyone, like kind of like embarrassing his son, showing, oh, look at his little baby boots, his little baby shoes. And then she's getting high from eating pot brownies, making an ass out of herself. That's funny, right? She's running around wildly while high on pot brownies. Because that's funny. And then he meets then he goes and meets with his roommate, played by Ramon Rodriguez, which later on he would star in Battle Los Angeles, which I liked it. Which I liked that film. I thought he was fine in that film. I guess apparently before him, I guess they originally wanted Jonah Hill to be in this film, but Seth Rogen convinced him not to do it because he had chose to do a cameo in the second, which this came out in 2009. The second Night at the Museum film, which he had a cameo in the Smithsonian Museum. So I guess maybe Seth Rogen did that for the better, which I don't like Seth Rogen nowadays. I already said that about him, but I guess that was a good choice because if it was Jonah Hill being the Shia LaBeouf's roommate, I'm like, oh my god. I'm overall not a fan of Jonah Hill though, although I do like him in Superbad, right? I do like his voice as Fish Legs in the How to Train Your Dragon series. But overall, I'm not really big on Jonah Hill. Well, like I said, I do like Superbad though. I do, to be perfectly fair. But I'm just overall, I'm not really big on. Although I look to a credit, I do like 21 and 22 Jump Street. So I do give Jonah Hill a little more credit than I should though. But some of the films that he's done, I just really wasn't though. But although I do like him in 21 and 22 Jump Street, and in my mind, Superbad. So I'm not I'm not a big hater on Jonah Hill. I'm just overall not a fan of his shtick overall. But 21, 22 Jump Street I do like though, and super bad. But thankfully, I think it was better if there was Ramon Rodriguez than Jonah Hill to be in this film. And because of product placement, because this is Paramount and this is Michael Bay, right? The guy in his room, he has posters of Bad Boys 2 and Cloverfield. Because Bad Boys 2, directed by Michael Bay, Cloverfield was released by Paramount, same as this film, right? Because I said before, when the first when Transformers was coming out, they advertised the first trailer for Cloverfield. So that's why they had Cloverfield and Bad Boys 2, the posters in there. And this is at this point, Shia LaBeouf, and this is where we get more because of the symbols, but this is where he's getting a little more acting goofy because the symbols making him, he's seeing these symbols, and he, in the middle of his class, he's like in the books, he's writing on the chalkboard, and his teacher is played by, from The Office, Rainn Wilson. Yeah, Rainn Wilson, who from The Office, a couple other films too, like The Meg, or his voice in Monsters vs. Aliens as a Galaxar. But yeah, his teacher, yeah, it's Rainn Wilson from The Office. That everyone knows him from. He's only for that bit, and then 5 seconds at the end. So, and by this time, Then they find out that Megatron is after with this person, this, which even the Optimus Prime knows about. It's there was these group of primes from back then, right? And they extract life. Well, except for like except for like planet Earth, right? Because it has humans in there, right? But there was this rogue prime named the Fallen, hence the title, Revenge of the Fallen. And he went off his own, but the Prime stopped him and they sealed him away. And Megatron wants. Well, first they bring him back. He was another piece of the Allspark. So they had another piece of the Allspark they got, and they resurrect Megatron. Comes back out of the sea where they left him on the last film, and he goes to find the Fallen one, the Fallen. And this is another issue. It says Revenge of the Fallen, but there's hardly much of the Fallen in the movie. He's hardly a villain which is called the title Revenge of the Fallen. He's hardly in the movie up until like the bit in the finale. And what's even sadder, that the Fallen is voiced by the late Tony Todd, because Michael Bay used him previously in the Rock. And I'm sorry, rest in peace, Tony Todd. I mean, Tony Todd, for whatever little dialogue he had, it's always nice to hear Tony Todd. Rest in peace, Tony Todd. I love Tony Todd. It's the more I think about it, it's how much I love Tony Todd, and I miss the guy. And like I said before, I met Tony Todd. Great guy. He was a great guy to talk to. If you check out my video, Rest in Peace, Tony Todd, there was a picture of me when I met him in the San Francisco Expo. Great guy. I miss Tony Todd. And it's sad, though. He voices the Fallen, but the character of the Fallen is barely in the movie with the title Revenge of the Fallen. And, you know, at the same time, it was a waste of Tony Todd. Waste of Tony Todd. If he's supposed to, it was cool. Oh, he's the main villain. He's the Fallen. He's barely in the movie up until like the fight, until like the little bit in the finale, and he gets his ass kicked pretty much easily by Optimus Prime. I'm like, wow, that was a waste of a villain, and let alone a waste of Tony Todd. I mean, Tony Todd's a great actor. Use him, you know. It just seems like how Tony Todd throughout the years he's been underused so much. It just aggravates me, because like I said, more thing about it, it goes to show how much I praise Tony Todd, how a great actor is, talented actor, and throughout the years he gets all these minor roles and stuff like that. Even for a big budget film, he should have done more. They should have made him do more in this movie as the main villain called the Fallen, which he's barely the villain is hardly the villain in the movie. But like I said, rest in peace, Tony Todd. But he was given hardly anything to do as the main villain, the Fallen. Anyway, so one thing leading to another. Like, oh, by the way, like in the first film, what they care about was this Allspark. Here, it's like every of these movies, there has to be like a new thing they just basically just pull out of their ass. Like, oh, like they mentioned a new thing that was never mentioned before in the previous movie. Like now there's this thing called what was called the Matrix of Leadership, I think it was called. If I get the thing correct. Yeah, Matrix of Leadership. It was like the key. It was like a key to like something called the Star Harvester, wherever the name is. So like the first film is the Allspark. Here it's this Matrix of Leadership, and like the next film, it's like the next film was called the Ark. I think it was called. I'm like, it's like all these other movies, like each one they pull out of their ass of ideas they don't that stuff they never mentioned before in the previous movies. Especially if it's the Autobots, they know about the stuff. Why not mention all the stuff from beforehand? It's like, well, because it's a new movie, new sequel, they gotta have another new idea. So, but yeah, they have to find this Matrix of Leadership. And also by this time, um, when they get Shia LaBeouf, right? Oh, but when he's in his college, there's this girl, which which this girl is which you learn to find out a Decepticon in disguise as a human, right? And he's like trying to be flirty with Sam, right? And it's like, hey, let's take a ride in my car, and Bumblebee does have the right idea, and it's like, what are you doing, Sam? Which, by the way, like before I go in, it's like funny they keep they it's the running joke that okay at the end of the first movie like okay now Bumblebee can speak perfectly, but now throughout the rest of this film and the rest of the series he still talks like through the radio. I'm sorry. Why would they change that? Because why? Because people think it's funny when he's talking like through sentences through the radio. To me, that got annoying really quick in the first film, and here it's more annoying throughout this for this film and the rest of the series. I think that's just what was wrong with him because he spoke normally at the end of the first film, but now they said no, we're just gonna make it because it's funny for him to saying stuff like that like through the radio. I'm like, no, it's not. It got annoying very quickly for me. So that's another issue. But anybody, he did have the right idea because like he's taking like Sam was taking this girl like wants to take a ride in Bumblebee, right? And Bumblebee's like, what are you doing? You're cheating on your girl basically. I'm like, yeah, but I think Bumblebee has a point on that though. I'm like, Sam, you're being a bit of a dick, you know. I'm like, first you were yelling at Bumblebee, and it's like, oh, now you basically let's have this other girl take a ride in Bumblebee, and it's like, oh, hey, did you forget about Megan Fox? I'm like, that makes Sam is basically a bit of a dick in this, you know. But then you find out that it's a Decepticon disguise. They attack him, and Sam's screaming like a girl. But they get chased to the school campus, and then including the roommate was the character Ramon Rodriguez name is Leo. He gets dragged into this, and then one thing leads to another. This Megatron finds Sam because he wants that's in his mind. And by the time if you still, I think it was like his left hand, Shia LaBeouf's left hand, he got into like an accident, right? So they had to make him wear like a prosthetic hand or something to cover up his injury or the cast, whatever he had. Because like in the second, and like in later in the second half of the film, like his hand is wrapped up, right? Because he got into an accident, so they had to keep his hand wrapped up because he hurt his hand so much. But I think they put like a prosthetic hand in replace of it to show not to see the cast and stuff like that. I don't know, but maybe people would miss it though, but I saw it. And so, but they get away, and then they go to John Turturro, who was running this deli now, since he's out of Sector 7. Shows him about these pictures of these symbols, and a lot of us that are first Optimus Prime. He does have a badass moment. I will say like he did in the first film. Like here, he's fighting this forest, and he has his two swords he has, and he's fighting like taking on 3-on-1. And it's okay, that's pretty good, you know. But then he gets killed. He dies. In order to bring him back, they need the matrix of leadership. So that's why they mention this thing. Because if you kill Optimus Prime, the symbol of Transformers, you know, which is kind of weird. They would kill him off, or like by the second film. Do you think they would do that like later on in other future films? But no, they kill him off pretty right away in the second film. But yeah, he does get revived later on though. But still, and he's out of it for I know he's dead for now though. But it's like he's out of it for a good chunk of the movie. And yeah, we're stuck with Bumblebee and these other annoying Autobots, and it was a name Mudskip and Mud wasn't it Mudskip. It was a Mudflap and Mudflap and look at the names. Look at this. See, it's like there's so many of these Autobots like you can't keep track of who's who, you know. I think it was Mudflap and then Skits, I think, or Sideswipe. I don't know, but this is two other Autobots that are with them. One has like golden teeth. I think the green one, has it with the gold tooth, like right here. I think it's his Paramount, and Paramount also owns Nickelodeon. I think the face is modeled after SpongeBob. I think. Because he does kind of the green one, I think it's Muffled. He kind of looks like SpongeBob with the two buck teeth like SpongeBob has. I think that was the inspiration, I think. And speaking of SpongeBob, Tom Kennedy, he voices the little Decepticon turned good guy, good Decepticon named Wheelie. I thought Tom Kenny was fine for the voice of Wheelie, although they give the stupid humor. Once again, I forgot to mention the stupid humor. There's more cringe in this one because later we see like Shia LaBeouf's parents have have a dog, and they have another dog, and we see the two dogs humping. I'm like, yeah, okay, we gotta see that now. And then we see Wheelie humping Megan Fox's legs, like, say my name, say my name. That's what we need in Transformers. I see a little robot humping Megan Fox's leg, which she captures him, puts him in a suitcase. I'm like, can't just he's a robot, high tech robot. Can't he just cut his way out or burst his way out of the suitcase? Shows how weak this robot is for an advanced robot. But then they find these symbols. They go to Egypt, which eventually, well, first they go to the Smithsonian. I don't know. See, this is one of the problems. This film is like, it's not only it's how long is this movie? It's like, yeah, it's like 149 minutes. So it's over basically 2.5 hours long. So that's why I'm all over the place, because this film is all over the place. That's why I was like, oh, is they go this place or is it this place? The film is all over the place. That's one thing. It's an issue I have is the script, and it's all over the place. But first, I think they go to the Smithsonian. There was this jet, which turns out to be a former Decepticon, and we hear the joke that he farts out a parachute. We hear the noise. Because that's the joke, you know. And apparently this guy, he has the ability to teleport them to wherever they go. I'm like, so they have ability to teleport. Wouldn't that be a good thing to have? Or, but I guess this guy's the only one who has the ability to teleport wherever they need to go, I guess. I think that other Autobots think that, oh, this is an important ability we can have, you know, but no. It's only when it's convenient, I guess. But they transport them to Egypt. And, oh, by the way, Josh Duhamel and Tyrese Gibson, rarely mention them because they barely have anything to do with this movie. They don't. So, but the main thing is that one of the pyramids of Egypt. It's one of the sources they need to do to activate, you know, bring the fallen in and everything else for this matrix of leadership. And that's where we get that they get in the fight with those construction Decepticons. They can merge together, called Devastator. That's where where John Turturro was climbing up the pyramid, and he said, "Oh, look, he sees it has a pair of balls." And also, Sam's parents, they get dragged into it. They get transported to Egypt by the Decepticons as well. And I thought Kevin Dunn had nice moments about being the father to telling Sam, hey, you know, he has to do what he has to do. That's, you know, I think Kevin Dunn did a good job too, though. And this is where he gets, by this time, Shia LaBeouf, he gets badly beaten, almost like he's dead. I think he was, but then that's where the Matrix thing helps him, and they use it to bring back Optimus Prime. And that old Decepticon, I think his name was Jetfire, I think it was. He gives his old parts to Optimus Prime, makes his big jetpack, and the Fallen, like I said, he was barely in the movie, and let alone a waste of Tony Todd. He fights the Fallen and just beats him up just pretty much just like that. I'm like, wow, you build this guy up from the beginning as he's one of this former Prime, and yet he's barely in the movie, and by the end, towards a little bit in the finale, he gets his ass kicked really easily by Optimus Prime. So a waste of hardly a villain, let alone a waste of Tony Todd. Waste of Tony Todd. And so, and then by the time like everyone is there, and happy ending for now. But and then he returns to class, and that's pretty much about it. I mean, the rest of like Megatron gets away, Starscream gets away. I mean, I barely remember who gets killed who, because there's like, so many characters, Decepticons. It's who remembers who is who, who gets shot at and stuff, So, man, I do remember seeing this back in the theater. I mean, I saw all the Transformers, I think, up until the last night, I think. Man, it was just so long. I mean, that's a problem with these movies. Like, they're so long. Like, this was like 2.5 hours. The third film was like 2.5 hours. The fourth one was even longer. It was like almost 3 hours. Like 2 hours and 45 minutes. Jeez, they just keep making these films longer and longer. And that's the problem, it gets boring at times. It's like, because it's focusing on the human characters more than the actual title characters themselves. And that's actually one of the things I liked about the animated Transformers 1 movie. No human characters. It's focused only on the Autobots. That's why I think one of the things I liked about the animated film from last year, I think it was Transformers 1. There was no human characters. So thank God. But he's just. I mean, Peter Cullen, he still does fine as the voice of Optimus Prime. Shia LaBeouf, yeah, the times his character was acting like a dick, though. But I think he still did fine as Sam. Fuck Megan Fox. I'll still say that. But the other cast, like Tyrese Gibson, Josh Duhamel, they were fine, but they were given very little to do in this movie. Very little to do. They do a little bit in the beginning, not much to a good, pretty much chunk of the movie up until like the ending where they're in Egypt. John Turturro, I think he still did fine, except for the scene we had to strip down to make a distraction. I mean, Steve Jablonsky did the score, returned to do the score. I think it was fine. I think the score in the first one was bad, is the best one, because he gave that fresh new like intensity of score for the film. Here it's basically like basically the same music, which basically is happens throughout the rest of this series. That the music by Steve Jablonsky is pretty much the same. I think that's why the score on the first one was the best, because they kind of rinse and repeat of the same score pretty much the rest of the sequels. And then of course also you get the song once again, another new song, though once again played by Linkin Park. But I think overall, I think the effects, the big spectacle that I do like. There's still practical explosion in this because of what Michael Bay does. It's a Michael Bay and exploding movie. It's what usually he always does. So there is still on that though. Some of the cast was fine, but some of them did very little to do. The humor was very. I did not like. I hated the humor in this. It was very cringing to hear. That's what the problem. That was the main thing that was problem. That's why probably a lot of people didn't think it was funny. But overall, it's just. It was just, like I say, it was just too long. That's another issue I have, is too long. These films did not take it be over 2.5 hours long. Especially the fourth film, it was like close to 3 hours. But I still don't like this film. I saw this back in the theater back then. I think I did like it, but I haven't watched this film in years, so opinions have changed. Definitely. Overall, I'd say this film sucks, though. As for the rest of the sequels, I think they just kept getting worse and worse afterwards. Although, granted, they said this trying to be like a dark sequel. This was not a dark sequel at all. I think they tried doing that with a third film, which I can see on that one. They tried to do a little bit more of a serious threat, but not this one. I think they're just trying to be more humorous, and they fail, which all the cringe-inducing humor, and so. But overall, I don't like Transformers, especially a villain that's hardly even a villain, and let alone waste of a talented Tony Todd. So overall, yeah, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, which is Harley is a fallen. You put in the title where the Harley is, but I'll keep going as a. I keep going if I keep ranking the films more, I'll get to that more. But this for now, this film sucked. So, but that's my review on the second film, Revenge of the Fallen, Harley. But yeah, but thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one, and we'll see you on that next review later.